tried everything.
The others watched, but you stepped forward. I admire that. The first to cross my threshold deserves my full attention. Shall we begin? How lovely. So many eager eyes, waiting, watching. You're mine for the evening. Let me take control and guide you through something unforgettable. Hello, how's everyone doing this week? Are you guys doing okay? Are you having a wonderful Friday? Hopefully you didn't miss me last week too much. I was having some bad sinus problems the day before, and my sinuses were still feeling kind of iffy, so that's why I ended up doing the cupcake thing. And the irony is that it was the very prior stream to that one of last week is why I stated, hey, if I'm not feeling well, I'm going to be using the building blocks, or I'm just gonna end up not streaming when I get sick and stuff. I felt kinda okay, that's why I kinda left it up to a vote, and everyone decided, hey, you should probably do a cupcake. And I'm glad that I didn't have another nosebleed or anything, because I would have just been able to end stream at that point, because that's what that kind of stream is for, is kind of just for a interjection compared to doing all the books and scripts and everything else. Because if you don't realize it, by the time I get past the 2-hour mark when it comes to reading, my throat and my sinuses start getting messed up from reading all the different lines, because I'm constantly moving my face muscles, and I don't know what it is that I have in my sinuses, but I did go to the doctor a little bit before that, and they are going to eventually take a map of my sinuses and see if there's anything massively wrong with me. Anyway, Scriptsune, your book reading kitsune here. I hope you guys had a lovely week, and this week we're gonna go back into the book reading, and we are going to be doing 5 chapters as usual. And since we have already started this book, we are going to be starting back onto chapter 6, and we're going to go all the way to chapter 10. That makes 5 chapters. If that math doesn't math for you, think of this: 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That makes 5 different chapters. Anyway, feel free to lurk and enjoy. If you weren't here from the previous reading, this series, which is the New Prophecy series of Warriors, the Cat series, is the second series of Warriors, and it actually has the old kit from Tiger Star, the main villain throughout the previous series, as one of the main characters in this series. Now, how they set it up, it seems like it's a little bit more open when it comes to the characters, in my opinion, but I still think that their focus is going to be on his kit. Let me go ahead and set the bookmark down. And we're going to start with chapter 6 today. As usual, I'll probably take a break after each 2 chapters and get a short rest, and then we'll continue on to the following ones. Start with chapter 6. All night, Leafpaw's sleep had been disturbed by strange, vivid dreams. At first, she thought she was following a scent trail towards 4 trees, running through the forest along the invisible path. Then, the dream changed and she felt the fur on her neck and shoulders rise, as if she was confronted by an enemy. With only battle a heartbeat away, the threat of danger faded. But now she grew colder and colder until she jerked awake to find the clump of ferns where she slept heavy with raindrops, and rain drumming softly on the forest all around her. Scrabbling to her paws, she dashed across the small fern-enclosed clearing and took shelter just inside Cinderpelt's den. The medicine cat was sleeping soundly in her mossy nest beside the back wall, did not move when Leafpaw came in. Shaking water from her pelt, the young apprentice blinked and yawned as she gazed out into the clearing. Above her, she could just make out the black outlines of trees against a sky that was growing gray with the first light of dawn. Part of her rejoiced that the long, dry spell was coming to an end, with this downpour that forest needed so badly. The rest of her could not help feeling troubled about what her dream might mean. Was StarClan sending her a sign? Or had she somehow picked up thoughts from Squirrelpaw? This would not be the first time she had known what her sister was doing without being told. Leafpaw let out a long sigh. Little as she liked the idea, she was almost convinced that Squirrelpaw must have slipped out of camp to hunt by night, sending Leafpaw the images of running through the forest. There was no way she had been on official patrol. What sort of trouble would Squirrelpaw be in if Firestar found out? As Leafpaw crouched there, she realized that the rain was easing off and the clouds were turning pale yellow and thinning out. With a last glance at the sleeping Cinderpelt, she slipped outside again, ignoring the water that soaked her fur as she pushed through the fern tunnel into the main clearing. Perhaps, if she could find Squirrelpaw quickly, she could help her hide whatever she had been up to. But when she reached the clearing, there was no sign of her sister. The other 3 apprentices had emerged from their den and were lapping eagerly at the shallow puddle that had pooled on the sun-scorched earth. Ferncloud's 3 kits crept out of the nursery, their eyes huge as they examined this strange new water that had fallen from the sky. Ferncloud looked on with pride in her eyes as they dabbed at it, squealing with excitement as shining drops spun away from their paws. Leafpaw watched them for a moment, then whirled around when she saw movement at the mouth of the gorse tunnel. An early hunting patrol, she wondered. caught out by the rain? Or could it be Squirrel Paw, returning after her illicit outing? Then she realized that the newcomer did not have ThunderClan scent. She drew breath to yell a warning to the clan before she recognized the sleek black pelt. It was Ravenpaw, who had once been a ThunderClan apprentice, but now lived as a loner in a two-leg barn on the edge of the WindClan territory. Leafpaw had met him once before, on her journey to Highstones with Cinderpelt. Living so close to Two Lakes, Ravenpaw hunted mainly by night, and was perfectly comfortable but with traveling through the forest in the pitch dark. He might be just the cat to tell Leafpaw if there had been a ThunderClan apprentice hunting the forest before dawn. The visitor crossed the clearing slowly, skirting the deepest puddles and delicately picking up his paws to shake off water. "Hi, it's Leafpaw, isn't it?" Ravenpaw meowed, pricking his ears toward her. That was some storm. I'd have been soaked through if I hadn't managed to shelter in a hollow tree. Still, the forest needs the rain. Leafpaw returned his greeting politely. She was trying to find the right words to ask him if he had seen Squirrelpaw on his way to camp, when a cheerful yowl interrupted her. "Hey, Ravenpaw!" Whitepaw and Shrewpaw were bounding across the clearing toward them. Ferncloud's kits abandoned their raindrop games and scuttled after them. The biggest of the three kits skidded to a halt in front of Ravenpaw and took an enormous sniff. "New cat," she growled. "New scent." The loner dipped his head in greeting, the tip of his tail flicking back and forth in amusement. "Holly Kit, this is Ravenpaw," Shrewpaw told her. "He lives on Two Leg Farm and feasts more on mice than you three have seen in your life." Holly Kit's amber eyes grew huge. "Every day?" "That's right," Whitepaw put in solemnly. "Every day." "I want to go there," the little gray kit mewed. "Can we? Now?" "When you're bigger, Birch Kit," Ferncloud promised, coming up to join them. "Welcome, Ravenpaw. It's good to see." "Holly Kit, Large Kit, stop that at once." The two brown tabby kits had pounced on Ravenpaw's twitching tail and were batting it with outstretched paws. Ravenpaw winced. "Don't do that, little kits," he scolded gently. "It's my tail, not a mouse." "Ravenpaw, I'm sorry," meowed Ferncloud. "They haven't learned how to behave properly yet." "Don't worry, Ferncloud," Ravenpaw replied, though he drew his tail closely against his side. Out of harm's way. Kits will be kits. And these particular kits have been out for long enough. Ferncloud swished her tail around to gather the three kits together and herded them back towards the nursery. "Say goodbye to Ravenpaw now." The kits mewed goodbye and scampered off. "Can we do anything for you, Ravenpaw?" Whitepaw asked politely. "Would you like some fresh kill?" "No, I ate just before I left home, thank you." The black cat replied, "I've come to see Firestar. Is he around?" "I think he's in his den," Shrewpaw told him. "Shall I take you there?" "No, I will," meowed Leafpaw. She was getting increasingly anxious to ask the loner if he had seen Squirrelpaw on his journey through the forest. Just then, Thornclaw, Shrewpaw's mentor, emerged from the warrior's den. Leafpaw twitched her ears toward him. Is your mentor looking for you?" she asked Shrewpaw. As she spoke, Thornclaw called to Shrewpaw, and the apprentice dashed off with a quick word of farewell. Whitepaw also meowed her goodbyes, and went over to join Brackenfur at the fresh kill pile. Suddenly, the thorny branches that formed the gorse tunnel trembled, and relief flooded over Leafpaw as she watched Squirrelpaw emerge, dragging a rabbit behind her through the mud. Leafpaw had taken a couple of paces toward her before she remembered the clan's visitor and turned awkwardly back to him. "That's your sister, isn't it?" Ravenpaw meowed. "Go and talk to her if you want. I can find my own way to Firestar's Den." Released, Leafpaw bounded toward her sister, who was heading for the fern tunnel. Catching sight of her, Squirrelpaw stopped to wait, dropping the rabbit at her paws. Its fur was plastered with mud from being dragged across the clearing, and rain had flattened Squirrelpaw's own pelt against her flanks. But her eyes gleamed with triumph. "Not bad, is it?" she announced, nodding toward her prey. "It's for you and Cinderpelt." "Where have you been?" Leafpaw hissed. "I've been worried sick about you." "Why?" Squirrelpaw's green eyes looked injured. "Where did you think I had gone? I only slipped out to hunt when the rain started to ease off. And you might at least say thank you." Snatching up the rabbit, she plunged into the ferns that led to the medicine cat's clearing without waiting for Leafpaw to respond. Leafpaw followed more slowly, not sure whether to be relieved or furious. She had the uneasy feeling that Squirrelpaw was lying to her. For the first time ever, if she had really picked up her sister's thoughts in her dream, then Squirrelpaw had done a lot more than just slip out of camp for a quick chase after a rabbit. When she emerged into the clearing, she saw that Squirrelpaw had already dumped the rabbit at the mouth of Cinderpelt's den. Her sister gave it an admiring sniff and meowed. "Might at least say I did well to catch it." She still sounded indignant, but she didn't meet Leafpaw's gaze when she spoke. "You did," Leafpaw admitted. "It's huge, especially as you had such a disturbed night," she added more sharply. Squirrelpaw froze. Only her green eyes moved, flicking up to rest on her sister's face. "Who says I did?" "I know you did. You were awake nearly all night. What was the matter? It was more than a short hunt, I know that." Squirrelpaw dropped her eyes to the ground. "Oh, I ate a frog late in the evening," she muttered. "It must have disagreed with me, that's all." Leafpaw unsheathed her claws and dug them into the rain-softened earth. Inwardly, she was fighting to stay calm. She knew that Squirrelpaw was lying to her, and part of her wanted to start wailing like a kid. "You're my sister, you should trust me." "Oh, a frog," she mewed. "You should have come to me for some herbs and to..." Hang on, I need to retake that sentence. I'm gonna do that after I take a sip of water. "Should have come to me for some herbs to chew." "Yes, well..." Squirrelpaw scraped the earth with her white paw. Leafpaw could see her discomfort in her flattened ears and the guilty look she shot at her, but didn't feel in the least bit sorry. Why was Squirrelpaw lying? "I'm fine now," Squirrelpaw insisted. "It wasn't anything to make a fuss about." She glanced around in relief as Cinderpelt appeared from the mouth of her den. Her smoky gray fur was ruffled, and she carried a leaf-wrapped packet in her jaws. "Fresh kill, I see," she meowed, setting the packet down. "Squirrelpaw, that's a splendid rabbit, thank you." Squirrelpaw gave her shoulder a quick lick, her eyes glowing at the medicine cat's praise. But she still avoided her sister's gaze. Cinderpelt picked up the packet again and patted unevenly across the clearing to set it down in front of Leafpaw. Many seasons ago, when she was Firestar's apprentice, she had injured her hind leg in an accident on the Thunderpath. She had been unable to finish her warrior training, but while recovering in the care of Yellowfang, the ThunderClan medicine cat, she had found a new path to follow in the service of her clan. Leafpaw, take that to Dabbletail, please. Cinderpelt meowed. It's poppy seed to help her sleep, because her teeth are aching so badly. Might you tell her to go easy on it? Yes, Cinderpelt. Leafpaw picked up the packet and hurried out of the clearing, casting one last glance at her sister as she went. There was no chance to ask Gorapaw any more questions, and her sister was still refusing to look at her. Leafpaw felt every hair in her pelt prickle with foreboding, as she wondered what could have happened to open up this gulf between them. Water! Help! Water everywhere! Swim! Brambleclaw yelled, then choked as a sharp, salty wave filled his mouth, dragging his fur and pulling him under. His paws worked frantically as he struggled to keep his head above the surface. He stretched up his neck, straining to find the line of reeds he expected to mark the opposite bank, but all he could see were endless, heaving blue-green waves. On the horizon, he caught a glimpse of the sun sinking into the waves in a pool of flame, its dying rays tracing their path of blood that stretched toward him. Then his head went under, and the cold salt water flooded into his mouth again. I'm drowning, he wailed silently as he fought for his life. StarClan, help me! His head broke the surface, and a strong current spun him around, with his back legs dangling helplessly beneath him. Choking and gasping for air, he found himself gazing up at a sheer wall of smooth sand-colored rock. He had been swept into the gorge? No, these cliffs were higher still. At their base, the waves sucked at a dark hole, edged by jagged rocks that made it look like a gaping mouth with teeth. Brambleclaw's terror increased as he realized that the swirling water was carrying him straight toward the stony jaws. No! No! He yelled. Help me! He kicked and thrashed in panic, but he was growing weaker, and his sodden fur was dragging him down. The waves drove him onward, crashing against the rocks. Now the black mouth loomed over him, spitting salty foam, as if it were about to swallow him alive. Then his eyes flew open, and there were leaves above him. Not sheer cliffs, and it was supported by moss, cushioned sand, rather than sinking in bottomless water. Hi, Holy, welcome in. Brambleclaw lay, shuddering with relief, as he realized that he was lying in his nest in the warrior's den. Thank you for the bow. The thunder of waves became the rush of wind in the branches above his head. Water dripped through the thick canopy of leaves and formed an icy trickle in his neck fur. And he knew the rain must have come at last. His throat was sore as if he swallowed a river full of salty water, and his mouth was parched. Brambleclaw sat up restlessly. Dustpelt lifted his head and muttered, What's wrong with you? Can't you keep quiet and let the rest of us sleep? Sorry, Brambleclaw meowed. He began grooming the moss out of his fur, his heart still thudding as if he were going to break out of his chest. He felt as limp and exhausted as if he had really been struggling to save himself in that strange, salt water. Gradually, the strengthening of the light in the den told him that the sun had come out. I should have done the clicking. It would have been a lot more comical with the comical bow. He heaved himself to his paws and poked his head out between the branches. Blinking, as he looked for a puddle where he could quench his thirst. A fresh breeze was driving the clouds away. In front of Brambleclaw, the clearing was filled with pale yellow light from the rising sun, reflecting from puddles on the ground and water droplets hanging on every branch and frond of fern. The whole forest seemed to be drinking in the life-giving water, the trees lifting their dusty leaves to catch each sparkling drop. "Thanks, StarClan," Mousefur meowed as she pushed her way out of the den beside Brambleclaw. "I'd almost forgotten what rain smells like." Brambleclaw staggered across the clearing to a puddle near the base of the high rock, where he lowered his head and lapped, trying to wash the taste of salt from his mouth. He had never imagined that water could taste like that. Like the other cats, he would sometimes lick salt from the surface of rocks, or taste it in the blood of prey. But the memory of drinking that salt-laden water made every hair on his pelt prickle. A final gust of rain ruffled the pools of water and rinsed the sticky feel of the salt from Brambleclaw's fur. Raising his head to enjoy the sharp, cold shower, he spotted Firestar emerging from his den under the high rock and turning to speak to the cat who followed him out. Brambleclaw was surprised to see the second cat was Ravenpaw. "Two Legs are always doing strange things," Firestar was saying as they came into earshot. "I'm grateful that you came all the way to tell us, but I don't think it's got anything to do with us." Ravenpaw looked uneasy. "I know Two Legs often act without reason, but I've never seen anything like this. There are far more of them on the Thunderpath than before, walking along the edge with shiny, bright-colored pelts. And they have new kinds of monsters, huge ones." "Yes, Ravenpaw, so you said." Firestar sounded faintly impatient with his old friend. "But we haven't seen any of them in our territory. I'll tell you what." He paused to press his muzzle affectionately against Ravenpaw's side. "I'll tell the patrols to keep their eyes open for anything unusual." Ravenpaw twitched the fur on his shoulders. "I suppose that's all you can do." "And you could drop in on Windclan on your way home," Firestar suggested. "They're closer than we are to that part of the Thunderpath. So, Tallstar ought to know something if something strange is going on." "Yes, Firestar, I'll do that." "Wait a moment, I got a better idea," meowed Firestar. "Why don't I come with you part of the way? I could take a patrol up to 4 trees at the same time. Stay there and I'll fetch Greystripe and Sandstorm." He bounded off into the warrior's den without waiting for Ravenpaw to reply. When the clan leader had gone, Ravenpaw caught sight of Brambleclaw and gave him a friendly nod. "Hi, how are you?" he meowed. "How's the prey running?" "Fine. Everything's fine." Brambleclaw was aware that his voice still sounded shaky, and he wasn't surprised when Ravenpaw peered at him more closely. It looked like he'd been chased all night by a horde of badgers, the loner meowed. "Is anything the matter?" "Nothing really." Brambleclaw scuffled his paws on the ground. "I had a dream, that's all." Ravenpaw's eyes were sympathetic. "Do you want to tell me about it?" "It was nonsense, really," Brambleclaw murmured, his ears filled again with the sound of saltwater waves crashing and bellowing against the cliffs. And he suddenly found himself spilling everything to Ravenpaw. The vast expanse of water, the salt taste of it when it filled his mouth, the gaping black jaws in the cliff that had threatened to swallow him, and, most alarmingly of all, the sun sinking in a pool of blood-red fire. "That place can't be real," he finished. "I don't know why it's gotten to me like this. It's not like I don't have anything else to think about," he added grimly. To his surprise, Ravenpaw did not leap in to agree that Brambleclaw had a meaningless dream about a place that had existed only in troubled imagination. Instead, the black cat was silent for a long time, his eyes clouded with thought. "Saltwater cliffs," he murmured. Then, "The place is real," he meowed. "I've heard of it before, though I've never seen it myself." "Real? What do you mean?" Brambleclaw stared at him, his fur standing on end. Rogue cats come to the two-leg farm sometimes, when they have traveled far and are in need of shelter for the night and a spare mouse or two. Ravenpaw explained. "Cats who live towards the place where the sun sets. They have told Barley and me about a place where there is more water than you could possibly imagine. Like a river that has only one bank, and it's too salty to drink. Every night, it swallows the sun in a flash of fire, bleeding into the waves without a sound." Brambleclaw shivered. The loner's words brought his dream back far too vividly for comfort. "Yes, I saw the place where the sun drowns." "In the dark cave with the teeth?" "I can't tell you about that," Ravenpaw admitted. "But this dream must have sent you for a reason. Be patient, and perhaps StarClan will show you more." "StarClan?" Brambleclaw felt his belly flip over. How could he dream of a place they have never seen unless StarClan willed it? Ravenpaw pointed out. Brambleclaw had to admit the logic in what the loner said. "Say it was StarClan who sent me this dream about the sun-drowned place," he began. "Do you think they could possibly be telling me to go there?" Ravenpaw's eyes widened in surprise. "Go there? Why?" "Well, I had another dream first," Brambleclaw explained, uncomfortably. I thought I met Bluestar in the forest. She told me about a new prophecy. That great trouble was coming to the forest. She said that I'd been chosen. He said nothing about the cats from the other clans. Even though Ravenpaw lived outside the warrior code, he would not approve of meeting with others in secret, as Brambleclaw had done. "Why me?" he finished in confusion. "Why not Firestar? He would know what to do." "Hi, Lechy. Forgot to say earlier, but I'm working online tutoring. Have good stream. Alright, have a nice lurk. The loner gazed at him solemnly for a moment. "There was a prophecy once about Firestar too," he meowed at last. "StarClan promised that fire would save the clan, though they didn't say exactly how. Firestar never understood it, never knew the prophecy was about him, until Bluestar told him just before she died." Brambleclaw met his gaze and could find nothing to say. He had heard about the fire prophecy. Every clan cat had, as part of the stories told about their leader. But it had never occurred to him that Firestar might once have felt as confused as he felt now. "There was a time when Firestar was a young warrior just like you," Ravenpaw went on, as if he could read Brambleclaw's thoughts. "He often wondered if he was making the right decisions. Oh yes, he's a hero now. He saved the forest. But to begin with, his task looked as impossible as yours. Whatever it might be, his prophecy has been fulfilled," he added. "Maybe it's your time now. Remember that StarClan don't like to make things obvious. They send us prophecies, but they never tell us exactly what we should do. They expect us to show courage and loyalty to achieve what has to be done, just like Firestar did. Brambleclaw was puzzled by the reverence which Ravenpaw, a loner who chose not to dwell in a clan, spoke of StarClan. Disconcertingly, the Black Cat murmured, "Just because I live outside the forest doesn't mean that I reject the warrior code. It is a noble path for cats to walk, and I would defend it as willingly as any warrior." He gave Brambleclaw a friendly nod as Firestar returned with Greystripe and Sandstorm. Brambleclaw murmured farewell and watched the 4 cats pad across the clearing and vanish into the gorse tunnel. If the dreams were true, both of them, then an enormous task lay in front of him. He had no idea how he could find the salt water, except that he would need to follow the setting sun. And he did not know how far away it was, further than any forest cat had ever gone before. That was for sure. Ravenpaw's words echoed in his ears. Maybe it's your time now. Had the other 3 cats dreamed of the sun-drowned place, too? What if he's right? Brambleclaw asked himself. What should I do next? That was the end of chapter 6. Gonna take a moment and then continue on to chapter 7. Chapter 7. Brambleclaw emerged warily from the undergrowth at the edge of the trees above the riverbank, tasting the air for the scent of cats. The traces of ThunderClan were all stale, though fresher RiverClan scents drifted across from the other side of the river. Hoping that no other cat from either clan would see him, Brambleclaw slipped swiftly down the bank to the water's edge. Brown water churned along past his paws. More rain had fallen More rain had followed during the day, though the clouds were thinking now. Why did it see? I messed up that entire sentence. Okay. More rain had fallen during the day, though the clouds were thinning now to let pale sunshine through, so that the forest steamed. The river was swollen, half submerging by the stepping stones, and Brambleclaw had to brace himself before he dared to leap out onto the first of them. He was on his way to visit Feathertail and Stormfur. All day, he had been thinking about the second dream, becoming more and more convinced that they had to travel to the sun-drowned place before they could learn what StarClan had to tell them. The dream had been too real to ignore. He could still taste salt in his mouth, and he flinched as the droplets splashed against his nose from the stepping stone, expecting this same sharp tang, and they ought to leave at once. His fur prickled with this strange sense of urgency, warning him that there was no time to wait until the next gathering. If the other chosen cats had also had the dream, it shouldn't be hard to persuade. He still had not told Squirrelpaw about the second dream, although he felt guilty that he was not keeping his promise. He was well aware that if she knew about the journey he was planning, she would want to come too. And what would Firestar think if Brambleclaw dragged his daughter off into the unknown? Water lapped cold around his paws as Brambleclaw landed on the first stone and crouched, ready for his leap to the next. Before he pushed off, he scanned the far bank again, although there was friendship now between ThunderClan and RiverClan. He was not sure of his welcome if he trespassed uninvited on their territory. He preferred to find Feathertail and Stormfur before any other cats knew he was there. He managed to reach the next dome, and the one after that, shivering as cold water splashed up onto his fur. The next stepping stone had vanished completely, with only a ripple of water flowing over it to tell him where it was. Keeping his gaze fixed on the spot, he leaped, but as he landed on his paws, he slipped off the edge, and he found himself splashing into the water. He let out a yowl of alarm as his head went under. Terror surged over him as he plunged into the bottomless blue-green waves like those of his dream. Clawing his way upwards, he surfaced to see reeds instead of sand-colored cliffs, and gray-brown water running in ripples, not waves. The current was carrying him close to the opposite bank, and Brambleclaw struck out, kicking strongly across the flow of water to his relief. His paws scraped on pebbles. A heartbeat later, he managed to stand and flounder into the shallow. Panting, he hauled himself onto the bank and shook himself vigorously. Suddenly, fresh river-cleansed scent wafted into his nostrils. He dived into a clump of bracken and peered out between the fronds. A moment later, he murmured thanks to StarClan, as Feathertail and Stormfur, the two cats he had wanted to see, appeared further along the riverbank. Brambleclaw plunged out of the bracken and stood shivering in front of them. "Hi," he mewed. "Great StarClan!" Stormfur looked him up and down. "Have you been for a swim?" "I fell off the stepping stones." "Feathertail, can I have a word with you?" "Of course. Are you sure you're all right?" "Yes, I'm fine. Feathertail, have you had another dream?" The gray she-cat looked puzzled. "No. Why, have you?" "Yes." Settling into the grass so they could talk more comfortably. Brambleclaw told them quickly about the sun-drowned place and the cave with teeth, feeling his fur bristle with fear again. "I spoke to Ravenpaw this morning. You know, the loner who lives near Highstones. He says the sun-drowned place is real, and he told me that StarClan's prophecies are always vague. You need the faith and courage of the warriors to understand them, and to trust what the StarClan wants us to do is right." "Which is what?" Stormfur queried. I think we should go to the sun-drowned place," Brambleclaw replied, his belly churning with tension. "That's where StarClan would tell us what we need to know." Feathertail had listened in silence, the blue gaze fixed on his face. When he stopped speaking, she nodded slowly. "I think you're right." "What?" Stormfur sprang to his paws. "Are you mad? You don't even know where this place is." Feathertail flicked him with her tail. "No, but StarClan will guide us." Brambleclaw waited tensely. If Stormfur refused to agree, he might tell Leopardfur what was going on, and the clan could stop Feathertail from leaving with him. The gray warrior paced along the bank and back again, his tail flopped up in agitation. "Faith and courage. We certainly need those if we went to this place," he muttered. "I'm still not convinced that you're right, mind you," he added wryly to Brambleclaw. "But if you're not, maybe StarClan will send another sign to turn us back." Feathertail's blue eyes glowed. "Does that mean you'll come with us?" "Try to stop me," her brother meowed grimly. He swung around to face Brambleclaw. "I know I've not had any dreams, but an extra warrior could be useful." "You're right." Brambleclaw was so relieved to have won the agreement that he did not try to argue. "Thanks. Both of you." "So when do we leave?" Stormfur mewed. "I thought the day before Half Moon," Brambleclaw suggested. That should give us enough time to talk to the others. Rising to his paws, he padded down to the water's edge. The sun was going down, red behind bars of dark cloud. A breeze ruffled his drying fur and he shivered again, less from the cold and from the thought of the path they had to travel. I know Tawny Pelt will come if I ask her, he meowed. But what about Crowpaw? He'd rather eat fox dung than go on a journey with us. But if all the cats StarClan have chosen don't go together, we might fail the prophecy. Crowpaw will understand. Feathertail tried to reassure him, though Brambleclaw wished he had her confidence. We'll help you persuade him, Stonefur offered. Comes to the riverbank to drink every day about sunset. It's too late now, so why don't we meet there tomorrow and talk to him together? Okay. Brambleclaw blinked his gratitude. Somehow, the prophecy seemed to weigh less heavily when he was sharing it with friends. Provided it comes after this rain, WindClan should have the water of their own now, remember? If it doesn't come, meowed Feathertail, sounding determined. We'll just have to think of something else. More rain fell during the night. WindClan's moorland streams would be flowing again without a doubt, making Brambleclaw more anxious than ever that WindClan apprentice would not come to RiverClan territory to drink. He was restless all day. Cloudtail, on hunting patrol with him in Dustpelt, kept asking if he had ants in his fur. When the fresh kill pile had been restocked, Brambleclaw managed to slip out of the camp again on his own. He especially wanted to avoid Squirrelpaw, who was bound to ask him where he was going. The sun was sinking by the time he reached the border with the RiverClan, and sight of the Two-Lake Bridge. It wasn't long before he saw the RiverClan warriors climbing the riverbank and scooting across the bridge with their heads low. Stormfur beckoned with his tail, and Brambleclaw raced across the border to meet him, and Feathertail at the near end of the bridge. Better hide, Stormfur meowed. You don't know how many WindClan cats will come, and you're not supposed to be here. Brambleclaw nodded. The three cats crept into the shelter of the thorn bush near the place where the WindClan cats came to drink. Just below their hiding place, the river raced noisily past, its brown water flecked with foam as it poured out of the gorge. They did not have long to wait before Brambleclaw caught a strong WindClan scent, and a group of cats appeared from the direction of 4 trees. The clan leader, Tallstar, came first, followed by One Whisker and a ginger warrior Brambleclaw didn't recognize. Other cats came after them, and Brambleclaw's heart began to race uncomfortably when he spotted Crowpaw among them with his mentor, Mudclaw. The WindClan cats padded down the slope to the riverbank and crouched at the water's edge to drink. Frustrated, Brambleclaw saw that Crowpaw stayed in the middle of the group, too far away to call him without other cats hearing. I'll have to go and fetch him, Feathertail murmured. She slipped out from underneath the bush and headed for the river. Brambleclaw watched to greet the WindClan cats, stopping to speak briefly with Morningflower, one of the WindClan elders. Their exchange was polite, though not friendly. Brambleclaw wondered how long the clan's uneasy alliance over the water would last, if WindClan went on coming to drink now that the drought was over. Soon, Feathertail went to crouch beside Crowpaw at the water's edge. Brambleclaw dug his claws into the ground as he watched her straighten up again, shake the water from her whiskers, and set off back to the thorn bush. Crowpaw was not following her. Had the WindClan apprentice decided he wanted no more to do with the mission, or had Feathertail been unable to tell him about the meeting? What's the matter? He hissed as Feathertail crawled back into the shelter of the branches. Did you talk to him? It's okay. Feathertail pushed a muzzle to his side. He's coming. He just doesn't want WindClan to see. While she was speaking, Crowpaw backed away from the river and began to pad up the bank towards the bush. His clanmates were still drinking, a couple fox lengths away. He glanced around casually and then dived for the bush before any cat could notice him go. As the leaves rustled into place around him, he glared at Brambleclaw with hostility in his green eyes. "I thought I could smell ThunderClan," he growled. "What do you want now?" Brambleclaw exchanged an apprehensive glance with him and Feathertail. "This wasn't a good start. I've had another dream," he began, swallowing nervously. "What sort of dream?" Crowpaw's voice was cold. "I haven't had one. Why would StarClan send you a dream and not me?" Stormfur raised his hackles, and Brambleclaw bit back a sharp response. "I don't know," he admitted. The grunt was Crowpaw's only reply, but he listened in silence as Brambleclaw described what he had seen. "Ravenpaw, the loner who lives on the far side of your territory, visited the camp yesterday," he finished. "He told me that the sun-drowned place is real. I think StarClan are telling us to go there. And we should go soon, all of us, in case the rest of the prophecy comes true, and the clans are in too much trouble to be saved." Crowpaw's eyes stretched wide. "I can't believe I'm hearing this," he meowed. "You're asking us to leave our clans and go trekking off into the unknown. StarClan knows how far. Just because you've had a dream that none of us have had? Who died and made you leader?" Brambleclaw found it hard to meet his eyes. Crowpaw was only echoing his own doubts. "I'm not trying to be leader," he stammered. "I'm just telling you what I think StarClan want." "I'm willing to go," Feathertail added, "even though I haven't had another dream." "Then you're more mouse-brained than he is," Crowpaw retorted. "Well, I won't go. I'll be made a warrior soon. I've worked hard for it. And I'm not leaving the clan so close to the end of my training." "But Crowpaw," Brambleclaw started to protest. "No!" The apprentice showed his teeth in a snarl. "I'm not coming. What would my clan think?" "Maybe they'll honor you," Stormfur meowed. The Grey Warrior's eyes were serious. "Think, Crowpaw. If trouble is really coming, worse than anything we've seen before, what would the clans think of the cats who helped them? They'll understand how much faith we had to place in StarClan, that they were leading us on a genuine mission, and they'll know how much courage it took to do this." "But you weren't chosen," Crowpaw pointed out. "It doesn't matter to you one way or the other." "Maybe not, but I'm coming anyway," Stormfur told him. "And the reason StarClan aren't giving us clear instructions, because they want us to show faith and courage," Brambleclaw added. "Those are the qualities that a true warrior needs." "Please, Crowpaw," Feathertail's eyes shone. "The mission might fail without you. Remember that you were chosen. The only apprentice singled out by StarClan. They must believe that you can do this." Crowpaw hesitated, looking at her. The red light of sunset had faded, leaving them in twilight, and Brambleclaw could hear and scent WindClan cats as they passed the bush on their way back to their own territory. Crowpaw would have to leave with them before they noticed he was missing. There was no more time to plead or reason with him. "All right," Crowpaw meowed at last. "I'll come." His eyes narrowed as he gazed at Brambleclaw. "Just don't start telling me what to do. Dreams or no dreams." I'm not going to take orders from you. Brambleclaw picked his way along the stone-lined tunnel underneath the Thunderpath, skirting the puddles that formed there since the rain. Darkness lay all around, along with the reek of ShadowClan. He had come here straight from the encounter with Crowpaw. The RiverClan warriors had offered to come with him, but Brambleclaw thought it was too risky. Alone, he'd be less of a threat if ShadowClan warriors found him on their territory. Emerging on the other side of the Thunderpath, he tasted the air for fresh scents of ShadowClan warriors, but detected nothing except the damp odors of the marshy ground. His belly skimming the earth, darted across the open space and into the shelter of some bushes. There were a few tall trees in the ShadowClan territory. Most of the ground was choked with brambles and nettles, separated by shallow pools of water. Brambleclaw's paws sank into the peaty earth at every step, and he shivered as his belly fur grew soaked. How did the ShadowClan stand it? He muttered. It's so wet. I'm surprised they haven't all got webbed paws. He had a pretty good idea of where he might find Tawny Pelt. She had once told him about a huge chestnut tree beside the stream that led down to the ThunderClan territory. Her eyes had glowed as she described this favorite spot for sunning herself and catching squirrels, making Brambleclaw wonder if she was secretly missing the trees of ThunderClan. With any luck, she might be there now. Brambleclaw located the stream and began to follow it, sometimes gritting his teeth and splashing through the shallows, in the hope of hiding his scent from ShadowClan warriors. He saw a patrol crossing the stream a short way ahead, and crouched down beside a clump of sedge until they had vanished into the undergrowth, and their scent faded away. Not long after that, he came to a chestnut tree. Its roots twisted around him, stretching down into the stream. Brambleclaw thought he could detect his sister's scent, but under the thick canopy of leaves, it was too dark to see her. Tawny Pelt, he called softly. Are you there? The answer came as a weight that crashed down on him, bowling him over. He let out a startled yell that broke off as his muzzle was pressed into the damp earth. Ignore that. That fell. A paw landed on his neck, pinning him with barely sheathed claws, and a voice growled close to his ear. What are you doing here, you stupid furball? Brambleclaw let out a gasp of relief. The claws retracted and the weight lifted off him, letting him scramble to his paws. Tawny Pelt was perched on a tree root, looking down at him. If you're found here, you'll be crow food, she hissed. What's gotten into you? Something's happened. I've had another dream. Brambleclaw quickly told her about it. Tawny Pelt settled herself on the root to listen. So Ravenpaw reckons it's a real place, she mused, when he had finished. And you think StarClan wants us to go there? They don't ask much, do they? Brambleclaw felt his ears droop. You mean you won't come? His sister's tail twitched irritably. Did I say that? Of course I'm coming, but no cat says I have to like it. And what about Stormfur? What does he have to get involved? StarClan haven't chosen him. Brambleclaw sighed. I know, but try stopping him. Besides, he's a good warrior. We might be glad of his support. We don't know what we're going to be meeting out there. And another thing, he added. He and Feathertail do everything together. I think it comes of having their father in another clan. I can understand that. Tawny Pelt's tone was dry. and her brother realized how much sympathy she might have for the two River Clan warriors. Her father was dead, and both her brother and her mother, Goldenflower, remained in ThunderClan. Tawnypelt might well feel like a stranger in the clan she had chosen, but Brambleclaw recognized the pride that would not let her voice her loneliness, and her determination to be loyal ShadowClan warrior. Regret surged through him, not for the first time, as he thought what a loss she was to ThunderClan. "You have served your clan well by coming on this journey," he reminded her. "That's true." A trace of eagerness crept into Tawnypelt's voice and grew stronger as she went on. "StarClan must have chosen us because they think we're the right cats. We must have something to offer that no other cats can give." She sprang down from the root and landed with a soft thud at Brambleclaw's side. "ShadowClan has many strong warriors to keep up the patrols. They can do without me for a while. When do we leave?" Brambleclaw let out an affectionate purr. "Not right now. I told the others the night before the half moon. We'll meet at 4 trees." Tawnypelt's tail lashed with enthusiasm. "I'll be ready. And now," she added, "I better show you to the border. Even one of StarClan's chosen can get his fur ripped off for trespassing." That is the end of Chapter 7. I'm going to take a quick break, and we'll come back and read Chapter 8. Be right back. I'm back. Chapter 8. Snake Rocks is the best place in the forest to find Cherville, Cinderpelt explained over her shoulder as she limped along the fern-shaded path. But we can't go there just now, thanks to that wretched badger. It's still there then? Leafpaw asked. She and the medicine cat were on the herb gathering expedition. The sun shone brilliantly from a sky that was clear again. But the rain had revived the forest plants, and Leafpaw is enjoying the delicious coolness on her paws as she follows her mentor along the narrow track. "So the Dawn Patrol said," Cinderpelt replied. "Keep your eyes open for— Ah!" She swerved into the ferns and up a sandy slope where several clumps of strongly scented herbs were growing. The flowers were gone, but Leafpaw recognized the large, spreading leaves, and as she drew closer, she smelled the sweetest scent of Cherryville. "Tell me what you use it for," Cinderpelt prompted, beginning to gnaw one of the stems at the base. Leafpaw narrowed her eyes and tried to remember. "The juice of the leaves for infected wounds," she mewed. "And if you chew the root, it's good for bellyache." "Well done," Cinderpelt purred. "Now you can dig up a few roots, not too many though, or there'll be no more in seasons to come." She went on biting the stems, while Leafpaw obediently began to scrape at the ground to uncover the roots. The chervil scent was all around them, making her feel lightheaded. But after a few moments, she began to sense something else. Something that reminded her of the acrid tang of the Thunderpath, though it was not quite the same. One second, I'm trying to get my stool here to flip back into my chair. There we go. She glanced up and spotted a thin thread of smoke rising from a clump of dead bracken a little way down the slope. "Cinderpelt, look," she mewed uneasily, pointing with her tail. The medicine cat looked around and froze, her neck, fur bristling, and her blue eyes blazing. "Great StarClan, no!" she gasped. Awkwardly, because of her injured leg, she began scrambling down towards the burning bracken. Leafpaw leaped after her and passed the medicine cat in a couple of bounds. As she drew closer to the clump of bracken, a searing light flashed, dazzling her eyes. Blinking, she made out something shiny and clear sticking out of the ground. Some spiky scrap of two-leg rubbish. The sun was falling straight onto it, and the bracken behind was slowly blackening and sending the wisp of smoke into the sky. "Fire!" Cinderpelt yelled, coming up behind her. "Quick!" Suddenly the bracken burst into flames. Leafpaw sprang back from the wave of heat, turning to flee. She saw that Cinderpelt stood still, gazing into the scarlet and orange blaze that leaped hungrily at the brittle stalks. Was she frozen in panic? Leafpaw wondered. Sandstorm had told her about the terrible fire that once swept through the ThunderClan camp. Cinderpelt had survived, but several cats had not, and the fire must especially be frightening to the medicine cat when her injured leg made it hard for her to run away. Then Leafpaw saw that Cinderpelt's eyes were not wide with fear, but something else. Her gaze was fixed and remote. Leafpaw realized with a shiver from her ears to her tail tip that her mentor was receiving a message from StarClan. As quickly as it had blazed up, the fire began to die, and Leafpaw let out a sigh of relief. The flames sank into bright embers and began to wink out, the fronds of bracken disintegrating into flecks of ash. Cinderpelt took a step forward. She was even more unsteady than usual. Leafpaw darted forward to press up against her side, supporting her and helping her to sit down. "Did you see it?" Cinderpelt whispered. "See what, Cinderpelt?" "In the flames. A leaping tiger. I saw it clearly. Its huge head, the leaping paws, stripes as black as night along its body." The medicine cat's voice was hoarse. "An omen from StarClan. Fire and tiger together. It must mean something, but what?" Leafpaw shook her head. "I don't know," she confessed, feeling scared and hopeless. I'm sorry, but I have to interject here. I think that's referring to Tiger Claw's son. Tiger Claw's daughter, and then also Firestar's daughters. I think that's what this is about. I just wanted to say that. I think that's what it is. It's the only thing I can think of. Okay, back to reading. Cinderpelt got shakily to a pause, shrugging off Leafpaw's attempt to help her up. We must go straight back to camp, she mewed. Firestar should hear us about this at once. The ThunderClan leader was alone in his den under the high rock when Cinderpelt and Leafpaw returned. Cinderpelt paused outside the curtain of lichen that covered the entrance and called out, Firestar, I need to talk to you. Come in, Firestar's voice replied. Leafpaw followed her mentor into the den to see her father curled up on the bed of moss by the far wall. His head was raised as if Cinderpelt had roused him from sleep, and when the medicine cat and her apprentice entered he rose and stretched, arching his back so that the muscles rippled under his flame-colored pelt. What can I do for you? Cinderpelt padded across the den towards him, while Leafpaw sat quietly beside the entrance, wrapping her tail around her paws as she tried to push down her sense of approaching danger. She had never seen Cinderpelt receive a message from the warrior ancestors before, and she was unsettled by the fear she had seen in her mentor's eyes on the journey back through the damp green forest. StarClan have sent me an omen, the medicine cat began. She described how the two-legged rubbish had caught the sun's rays and set fire to the bracken. In the flames, I saw a leaping tiger, fire and tiger together, devouring the bracken. Such power, unleashed, could destroy the forest. Firestar was crouched in front of her, with his paws tucked in and his green gaze fixed on her face so intently that Leafpaw almost expected her mentor's gray fur to start smoking like the bracken burning under the hot sunlight. What do you think it means? Hi, Lechy. Did you just head pat me twice? No, that one of them's a hydrate. Okay. I hydrate. Drinking that yellow water. Of course I have to put a hydrating mirror in there that makes it look like, you know, that. And I'm actually sitting up straight, so haha, joke's on you. Don't look at me like that. I will take a picture of it and send it. Don't test me. I've been trying to work it out, Cinderpelt meowed. I'm not sure if I'm right, but in the old prophecy, fire will save the clan. Fire meant you, Firestar. Don't you look at me like that. The ThunderClan leader gave a start of surprise. You think it refers to me now? Well, perhaps, but what about Tiger? Tigerstar is dead. Leafpaw felt uneasiness stir inside of her as her father calmly named the fearsome cat who had shed so much blood in his quest for power. He is dead, but his son still lives, Cinderpelt pointed out quietly. She glanced at Leafpaw sitting in the shadows, as if she were uncertain her apprentice should be hearing this. Leafpaw stayed absolutely still, determined to listen to the rest. Brambleclaw? Firestar exclaimed. Are you saying he's going to destroy the forest? Come on, Cinderpelt. He's as loyal as any warrior in the clan. Look at the way he fought for us in the battle against the Blood Clan. Leafpaw felt a sudden urge to say something in Brambleclaw's defense, though it was not her place to speak here. She did not know the young warrior particularly well. But some instinct inside her cried out, no, he would never harm his clan, or the forest. Firestar, use your head. Cinderpelt sounded irritable. I haven't said that Brambleclaw would destroy the forest, but if Tiger doesn't mean him, which cat does it mean? And something else. If Tiger is Tigerstar's son, then maybe Fire is Firestar's daughter. Leafpaw flinched, as if a badger had sunk its teeth into her fur. "Oh, I didn't mean you." Cinderpelt turned to her apprentice with amusement, gleaming faintly in her blue eyes. "I'll keep an eye on you, don't worry." Glancing back at Firestar, she added, "No, I think it more likely means Squirrelpaw. She has a flame-colored pelt like you, after all." Leafpaw's brief sense of relief was swallowed up in fear and dismay as she realized where the medicine cat's logic was leading. Her own sister, the cat who was dearer to her than all others. Was she prophesied to do something so terrible that her name would be cursed by all the clans? Just as queens told their kits now that if they were naughty, the terrible Tiger Star would come and get them. My own daughter. She's headstrong, yes, but not dangerous. Firestar's eyes were deeply troubled. Leafpaw saw that he had too much respect for Cinderpelt's wisdom to argue with her interpretation, though it was as bitter as mouse bile to hear. "What do you think I should do?" he asked helplessly. Cinderpelt shook her head. "That's your decision, Firestar. I can only tell you what StarClan have shown me. Fire and Tiger together, and danger to the forest. But I advise you not to tell the clan yet, not until I receive another sign. I'll only panic, and that'll make things worse." Her head swiveled, and fixed an icy stare on Leafpaw. "Say nothing about this. On your loyalty to the clan." "Not even to Squirrelpaw?" Leafpaw asked nervously. "Especially not to Squirrelpaw. I must tell Greystripe," Firestar mewed. "And Sandstorm. StarClan know what Sandstorm would think about this." Cinderpelt nodded. "That is wise, I think. And it might be as well to keep the two of them apart." Firestar spoke half to himself. Leafpaw could see he was torn between doing his best for his clan and his deep feelings for his daughter and the warrior who had once been his apprentice. "She's an apprentice. He's a warrior. It shouldn't be hard," Firestar went on. "But make sure they have enough to do, and not in each other's company. Maybe StarClan will send another omen to tell us when the danger is past," he suggested, glancing hopefully at Cinderpelt. "Maybe," but the medicine cat's tone was not reassuring. She rose and flicked her tail for Leafpaw to follow her. "If they do, you'll be first to know." She dipped her head and backed out of the den. Leafpaw moved to follow her, hesitated, then rushed across to her father and buried her muzzle in his pelt, wanting to be comforted as much as to comfort him. Whatever this omen might mean, she was scared by it. She felt Firestar's tongue rasp warmly over her ear. Her eyes met his, and she saw her own sorrow and fear reflected there. Then Cinderpelt called, "Leafpaw!" from outside, and the moment was over. Leafpaw bowed her head to her leader and left him alone, to wait for further news from StarClan about the destiny of his cats. That's the end of Chapter 8. Chapter 9. Brambleclaw chose a plump starling from the fresh kill pile, carrying it a few paces away before he began to gulp it down. Sun high was just past, and the clearing was full of cats enjoying the warmth. Brambleclaw caught a glimpse of Leafpaw padding over to the elder's den, a wad of herbs in her jaws. He was surprised to see how unhappy she looked. Perhaps she was in trouble with her mentor, though he found it hard to imagine that Cinderpelt would drive any cat to look so worried. Closer to the nettle patch, Firestar was eating with Greystripe and Sandstorm. As Brambleclaw bit into his prey, he saw his leader raise his head and give him a hard stare, as if he might be in trouble. Brambleclaw couldn't remember anything he had done wrong that his leader knew about. but his fur prickled uneasily. Surely, Firestar hadn't found out about the dreams. He braced himself for his leader to call him over and tell him what was on his mind. But when he heard a cat speak his name, it was Squirrelpaw. She snatched a mouse from the heap of fresh kill and bounced it across to sit by his side. "Whew!" she exclaimed, dropping the mouse. "I thought I'd never finish feeding the elders. Longtail has the appetite of a starving fox." She took a bite from her piece of prey and gulped it down. "So what's happening?" she asked. "Have you had any more messages from StarClan?" Ramaclaw swallowed his mouthful of starling. "Shh! Not so loud," he hissed. It was the day after his encounter with Crowpaw and his visit to ShadowClan territory, and he had still not decided how much to tell Squirrelpaw about the second dream. If he vanished on the day before the half moon without confiding in her, he would have broken his part of their bargain, but he did not know what he would say if she demanded to come with them. "Well, have you?" Squirrelpaw persisted, lowering her voice. Ramaclaw chewed slowly, playing for time. He had just decided that he would have to tell the noisy she-cat something, if only to stop all her questions. When he realized that Firestar had padded over from the nettle patch and was standing over them, he sniffed. He stiffened instinctively, unsheathing his claws so that they sank into the breast of the starling. "Squirrelpaw, I want you to go with Thornclaw," Firestar ordered. "He's going to show Shoepaw the best hunting places near 4 trees." Squirrelpaw took another gulp of mouse and swiped a tongue over her whiskers. "Do I have to? I've been up there with Dustpelt a load of times." The tip of Firestar's tail twitched back and forth. "Yes, you do. When your leader gives you an order, you obey it." Squirrelpaw rolled her eyes at Bramaclaw before picking up the last of the mouse and swallowing it. "Now, Squirrelpaw." Firestar's tail twitched again. Thornclaw's waiting. He nodded toward the tabby warrior, who was padding across the clearing with Shoepaw. "You could at least let me finish my mouse in peace," Squirrelpaw argued. "I've been on my paws all morning, chasing after the elders." "And so you should be." Firestar's voice was sharp. "That's what being an apprentice is all about. I don't want to hear you complaining." "I'm not complaining." Squirrelpaw leaped to her paws, her fur bristling. "I only said I wanted a bit of peace and quiet to eat. Why are you always nagging me? You're not my mentor, so stop acting like you are. Or are you just afraid that I'll let you down and not live up to our great leader's shining example?" Without waiting for a response, she spun around and flounced off to meet Thornclaw and Shoepaw near the entrance to the camp. Bramaclaw noticed that the tabby warrior looked surprised when Squirrelpaw spoke to him, though he was not too far off to hear what she said, and it crossed his mind that Thornclaw hadn't been expecting her to join the patrol at all. Then the warrior nodded, and all 3 cats vanished into the gorse tunnel. Firestar watched Squirrelpaw go with a grim look. He didn't say a word to Bramaclaw, but turned and padded back to Sandstorm and Greystripe. Bramaclaw heard Sandstorm growl. "You know that's the wrong way to handle her. If you order her about, she'll just get more stubborn." Firestar replied in a low voice that Bramaclaw couldn't catch. Then the cats got up and headed toward Firestar's den. What was that all about? Bramaclaw wondered. Firestar was annoyed with Squirrelpaw, so he made up an excuse to get her out of the camp. His blood ran chill. To get her away from me, maybe? If he was right, there could only be one reason. Squirrelpaw must have told her father about the first dream, and the meeting with the other cats at 4 trees. She might have done it deliberately, or she might have let something slip because she wasn't thinking. Whatever had happened, Bramaclaw knew there would be more trouble to come, but at least it meant he didn't have to tell her about the second dream. She had obviously broken the agreement they had made at Four Trees. Trying to put his fears about what Firestar might do next out of his mind, he went back to the fresh kill pile. If he was going to set off on a long journey in a few days' time, it would be a good idea to eat more and build up his strength. He would also ask Cinderpellet about the traveling herbs that cats ate to give them strength for the journey to High Stones. As long as he could think of a way to do it without arousing the medicine cat's suspicions. He was just reaching down to pick up a juicy-looking bowl when he heard a voice behind him. "Hey, what do you think you're doing?" It was Mousefur. Brambleclaw looked around to see the brown she-cat glaring at him for a few fox lengths away. "I've been watching you," she went on. "You've already eaten. You haven't hunted enough today to take any more prey." Embarrassment flooded over Brambleclaw. "Sorry," he mumbled. "So I should think," Mousefur snapped. Cloudtail, who was standing beside her, let out an amused purr. "He's trying to compete with Graystripe," he teased. "Looks like one big eater isn't enough for ThunderClan." "Never mind, Brambleclaw. You want to hunt with me and Brightheart? We catch as many voles as you can eat, and double the fresh kill pile." Thanks," Brambleclaw stammered. "Hang on, I'll just fetch Brightheart." Cloudtail raced over to the warrior's den, and Mousefur, the last glare at Brambleclaw, followed him. While Brambleclaw waited for his friends to reappear, he decided to suggest going up to Four Trees, where they might come across Thornclaw's patrol. He needed to get a hold of Squirrelpaw and find out exactly what she had told her father. If Firestar knew that the Star Clan had chosen 4 cats, each from a different clan, but he tried to warn the other leaders and put a stop to their journey before it even started. But Brambleclaw's patrol saw nothing of Squirrelpaw and the others while they were out. And by the time he returned to camp with Cloudtail and Brightheart, with plenty of prey to add to the pile, night was falling. Most of the cats were already heading for their dens. Brambleclaw kept watch until the evening patrol had left, and the moon had appeared above the trees, but he still did not see Squirrelpaw. He slept badly that night, worried about the prophecy and Squirrelpaw's unwanted involvement. The next morning, he pushed his way out of the warrior's den as soon as he woke, determined to find the Ginger Apprentice and get some answers to his questions. But it seemed as if Star Clan itself were against him, making him hiss out loud with frustration. No sooner had he set paw in the clearing than Graystripe called him to join the dawn patrol with Sorreltail and Rainwhisker. By the time they returned, after a circuit of the whole territory, it was almost sun-high. When Brambleclaw checked the apprentice's den, it was empty, and as he could not see Despelt in the camp either, he assumed that Squirrelpaw had gone out training with her mentor. He took a nap in the heat of the day, his worries soothed for a short while by the quiet murmur of bees and the sigh of wind in the branches, and woke to catch the sight of Squirrelpaw disappearing into the gorse tunnel, a wad of old bedding clamped in her jaws. Springing to his paws, he was about to follow her when a cat called his name. Brackenfur was padding toward him with his apprentice, Whitepaw. For some reason, the golden-brown Tom looked uneasy. "Hi, Brambleclaw. I thought you might like to come and watch the training session," he meowed. Brambleclaw stared at him in surprise. Warriors hardly ever watched their apprentices training, unless they were mentors themselves. With a swift glance at the tunnel, where Squirrelpaw was now out of sight, he replied, Thanks, Brackenfur, but some other time, okay?" He headed quickly toward the camp entrance, but realized after a couple of heartbeats that Brackenfur was keeping pace with him. "It's just that Firestar thought it might be good practice for you," the older warrior explained. "And when you have an apprentice of your own?" Brambleclaw halted. "Let me get this straight," he meowed. Firestar asked you to tell me to watch you in White Paw training. Brackenfur's gaze slid past him, and he looked acutely embarrassed. That's right, he mewed. But we never do that, Brambleclaw protested. Anyway, it'll be moons before Ferncloud kids are ready for mentors. Brackenfur shrugged. An order's an order, Brambleclaw. Brambleclaw blinked. It's an order? Shook his head crossly. It wasn't StarClan that was against him. It was his own leader. And it was hardly surprising. Scorepaw had told Firestar that one of his warriors had been having prophetic dreams without telling the rest of the clan. Fuming, he followed Brackenfur and his apprentice out of the camp along the ravine to the sandy hollow where the training sessions took place. He sat on the edge, watching Brackenfur put Whitepaw through the fighting moves. A little later, Mousefur arrived with Spiderpaw, and the two apprentices started a mock battle. Brambleclaw watched as Whitepaw darted in to give Spiderpaw a quick nip in the neck. Spiderpaw spun around at once, his long limbs whirling, as he leaped on her and pinned her to the ground. They were both making good progress. Brambleclaw noticed idly, yawning with boredom. I could be doing something useful, he thought miserably. There were only 2 days to go before he was due to meet the other cats at Four Trees and set out on a journey. He needed to talk to Squirrelpaw soon. When Mousefur called a halt and the two apprentices climbed out of the hollow, shaking sand from their fur, Brambleclaw returned to camp even more determined to find Squirrelpaw and get some answers. To his relief, when he emerged from the gorse tunnel, he spotted her with Shoepaw beside the apprentice's den. Racing across the clearing, he halted in front of her and demanded, I want to talk to you. He knew that issuing orders was not the way to handle Squirrelpaw, ready for her to snarl or spit. He was surprised when she mewed in a hurried, low voice, with an uneasy glance at Shoepaw. Okay, but not here. Meet me behind the nursery. Brambleclaw nodded and padded away to greet Sootfur and Ashfur, who were returning with fresh kill. He paused at the entrance to the nursery where Ferncloud was watching her kids play, forcing himself to sound normal, as he commented on how strong and healthy they were growing. Finally, he made his way behind the nursery, a sandy area bounded by nettles. The cats went to make their dirt. Squirrelpaw was already waiting for him, her dark ginger fur almost hidden in the shadows. Brambleclaw, You told your father something, haven't you? Brambleclaw interrupted. He promised to keep your mouth shut. Squirrelpaw straightened up to face him, her neck fur bristling furiously. I have not. I haven't said a word to any cat. Then why is Firestar so determined to keep us apart? Oh, you've noticed it too, have you? Squirrelpaw tried to sound calm, but her voice rose to a wail as she went on. I don't know. I promise I didn't tell him anything, but he looks at me like I've done something bad, and I haven't. Suddenly feeling sorry for the confused, unhappy she-cat, Brambleclaw padded up to her and pressed his muzzle against her side. But she whisked away from him, her teeth bared in the beginnings of a snarl. It's nothing I can't handle. Leave Paw's upset too, she added. She hasn't said anything, but I can tell. Brambleclaw sat down and stared across the nettles to the thorned hedge around the camp, without really seeing it. He couldn't make any sense of Firestar's behavior if Squirrelpaw was telling the truth about keeping quiet. Brambleclaw couldn't bring himself to think that she was lying to him, which meant there had to be another reason Firestar was angry at them both. But what on earth could it be? Perhaps we should ask him, he suggested. If he told us what the matter is, we might be able to put it right. Squirrelpaw looked doubtful, but before she could reply, Brambleclaw heard the sound of more cats pushing their way through the nettles. Springing to his paws, he whipped around to see Firestar himself, with the Greystripe just behind. So, ThunderClan leader stepped forward until he stood between his daughter and Brambleclaw. Truepaw said I'd find you here. We weren't doing anything wrong, Squirrelpaw blurted out. But I wonder what you think you are doing. Firestar gave his daughter a hard stare and then transferred it to Brambleclaw. Wasting your time for one thing, when there's work to be done. We've worked hard all day, Firestar, Brambleclaw meowed, ducking his head respectfully. That's true, Firestar, they have, Baystrike put in. Firestar shot him a quick glance, but did not respond. Does that mean you think there's nothing more to do? He asked Brambleclaw. The younger warrior opened his mouth to protest, but his leader did not give him a chance. If you're so sure, he went on, then take a look at the elders. Phosphor got burrs tangled in her pelt today. You can help her get them out. Anger flared inside Brambleclaw. That was an apprentice task. But he could see from Firestar's cold green gaze that there was no point in arguing. He mumbled, "Yes, Firestar," and padded away toward the main clearing. Once the nettles had wrestled back into place, screening him from the little group of cats, he paused to hear Firestar speaking to Squirrelpaw, still in the same hard, displeased tone. Squirrelpaw, you must have better things to do than hang out with an inexperienced warrior like Brambleclaw. Stay with your own mentor in the future. Brambleclaw couldn't hear Squirrelpaw's response, and it wasn't safe to stay there and listen any longer. Sadness flooded over him as he made his way to the elder's den. Somehow he had lost his leader's respect, and if Squirrelpaw really hadn't told her father about the dream and the meeting with the other cats at Four Trees, he couldn't imagine why. In 2 nights' time, he was supposed to leave on his journey with the cats from the other clans to find the sun-drowned place and see what midnight told them. How could the possibility go? Brambleclaw wondered despairingly, when Firestar was watching him so closely. A chill ran through him from ears to tail tip as he realized that to be loyal to the prophecy and to StarClan, he might have to be disloyal to his leader. That is the end of chapter 9. Gonna take another quick break and then we'll come back and finish the last chapter for the stream. Be right back. I'm back. You guys ready for the last chapter for the stream? Chapter 10. Brambleclaw scarcely slept that night, and when he did, his dreams were full of Firestar's anger, and images of his leader driving him away from the camp. When he pushed his way out of the warrior's den the next morning, he still felt exhausted, even more so when he reflected that this was his last day in camp before his journey would begin. The gray dawn light was filtering through the camp, and the wind was chilly. Tasting the air, Brambleclaw thought he could make out the first scent of approaching leaf fall. Change was on the way, he realized, whatever he and the other chosen cats tried to do. Throughout the day, he did not even bother trying to speak to Squirrelpaw. Though Firestar had not ordered them to stay apart, he obviously didn't like them together. There was no point in deliberately looking for trouble. Brambleclaw caught a glimpse of the young apprentice leaving the camp with Dustpell. She looked oddly subdued, with her tail trailing against the earth and her ears flat. "You look as if you've lost a rabbit and found a shrew," a brisk voice spoke beside him. Brambleclaw looked up. It was Mousefur. "You want to come hunting with me and Spiderpaw?" the she-cat meowed. For once, Brambleclaw felt God dang it. For once, Brambleclaw felt he had hardly any energy for hunting or anything else. With his journey due to start the next day, worries were crowding him like cats at a gathering. Was he really meant to lead 4 other cats out into the unknown, to face dangers they could not even imagine? Mousefur was still waiting for Brambleclaw to answer. He couldn't help wondering if her suggestion of hunting together was another of Firestar's orders to keep him busy. But the brown cheek cat blinked at him in a friendly way, and he realized that he would be better off hunting than hanging about the camp worrying. Perhaps if he brought back plenty of prey, he would start to regain Firestar's good opinion. But the hunt didn't go well. Spiderpaw was too easily distracted, as playful as a kit on its first outing. Once, he was creeping up on a mouse. A leaf spiraled down past his nose, and he lifted one paw to bat at it. Startled by the clumsy movement, the mouse vanished under a root. "Honestly," Mousefur sighed, "do you expect the prey to come and jump into your mouth?" "Sorry," Spiderpaw mewed, looking abashed. He made more of an effort after that. When the patrol came upon Squirrelpaw, why I say Squirrelpaw? You see what happens when you have a bunch of different names and then then you see like half of the name, you end up completing it? That's my brain right now. When the patrol came upon a squirrel nibbling an acorn in the middle of the clearing, Spiderpaw began stalking it, moving each long black leg stealthily. He was almost ready to pounce when the wind changed and carried his scent to his prey. The squirrel started, tail flicking up, and bounded toward the edge of the clearing. "Bad luck," Brambleclaw called. Instead of answering, Spiderpaw raced after the squirrel and disappeared into the undergrowth. "Hey!" Mousefur shouted after him. "You never catch a squirrel like that." Spiderpaw didn't reappear, and his mentor bared her teeth in a resigned growl. "One day he'll learn." She padded off into the undergrowth to find him. Left to himself, Brambleclaw stood still, listening for the sound of prey. There was a faint rustling in the leaves under the nearest tree. A mouse appeared, scuffling after seeds. Brambleclaw dropped into a hunting crouch and crept on it, trying to make his paws float over the ground. Then he sprang and killed his prey with one swift stab. He scraped earth over it so he could collect it later, half wishing that Mousefur had been there to see his success. At least she could have told Firestar that he was still hunting well for his clan, whatever the leader's complaint was. It couldn't be about that. Listening for more prey, promising himself one last good hunt before he left. He pricked up his ears, and instead of the sound of something bigger rustling among the bushes a little way off, in the opposite direction where Spiderpaw and Mousefur disappeared. Brambleclaw drew the air into his mouth, but he could scent nothing except thunderclan cats. He began to pad forward only to quicken his pace as the rustling grew louder and he was followed by a furious yowl. He ran around the edge of the bramble thicket and stopped dead. There was a gorse bush in front of him, and Squirrelpaw, struggling madly among its thick, spiky branches. Her front paws were off the ground and her fur was tangled in the thorns. Brambleclaw couldn't suppress a growl of laughter. Having fun? Instantly, Squirrelpaw's head whipped around and her green eyes flashed fury at him. That's right, have a good laugh, you stupid furball, she snapped. Then maybe you'll have time to get me out of here. She sounded so much like the old Squirrelpaw rather than the dejected creature that had left the camp that morning. Tail waving, he strolled toward her. How did he manage to get so stuck? I was chasing a vole. Squirrelpaw sounded exasperated. Dappletail said she fancied one, so I thought I'd better oblige, seeing that Firestar seemed to want me to feed the elders like forever. It ran under here, and I thought there was room for me to run after it. There isn't, Brambleclaw pointed out helpfully. I know that now, Mousebrain. Do something. Keep still then. Approaching the bush, Brambleclaw saw where the worst tangles were, and began to tease out her fur, carefully using his teeth and claws. Some of the thorns pierced his nose, making his eyes water, but he kept on without complaining. Hang on, Squirrelpaw muttered after a while. I think I'm loose. Brambleclaw jumped out of the way as the apprentice plunged forwards, forepaws scrabbling at the earth as she dragged her hindquarters clear of the branches. A moment later, she was free, shaking herself irritably while she stared at the tufts of ginger fur she had left behind. Thanks, Brambleclaw, she meowed. Are you hurt at all? He asked. Maybe you ought to let Cinderpaw have a look at... Squirrelpaw! Brambleclaw froze and his heart sank. He slowly turned around to see Firestar stalking toward them. The clan leader had an expression like ice in his eyes as he looked from Brambleclaw to his daughter and back again. Is this how you obey orders? He growled. The unfairness of Firestar's attitude took Brambleclaw's breath away. For a couple of heartbeats, he couldn't find words to answer, and when he did, he knew he sounded guilty. I'm not disobeying orders, Firestar. Oh, I'm sorry. Firestar's voice was dry as the sun-scorched rock. I thought you were supposed to be on hunting patrol, but I must have heard wrong. I am on a hunting patrol, Brambleclaw mewed desperately. Firestar made a great show of looking around. I don't see Mousefur or Spiderpaw. Spiderpaw went off after a squirrel, Brambleclaw pointed with his tail. Mousefur went after him. Why are you being so horrible? Squirrelpaw interrupted, glaring at her father. Brambleclaw isn't doing anything wrong. Brambleclaw isn't doing what he is told, Firestar growled. That isn't the warrior code as I was taught it. Squirrelpaw sprang forward to stand nose to nose with her father and lifted her voice in a yowl of pure fury. I was stuck in a bush. Brambleclaw helped me. It's not his fault. Be quiet, Firestar rasped. Brambleclaw was struck by how much alike father and daughter looked, green eyes flashing, ginger pelts bristling angrily. This has nothing to do with you. It looks like it has, Squirrelpaw argued. You growl at Brambleclaw every time he so much as glances at me. Silence, Firestar hissed. Brambleclaw stared in alarm. Just at that moment, Baystripe thrust his way into the clearing, a roll clamped in his jaws. Firestar? He meowed, dropping his prey. What's going on? Firestar lashed his tail and straightened up with an impatient shake of his head. Brambleclaw forced himself to relax the fur on his neck. Oh, right. Greystripe's amber eyes glowed with understanding as he looked at the other cats in the clearing, and Brambleclaw realized that whatever was making Firestar act like this, his deputy knew all about it. Come on, Firestar, he went on, padding up to the clan leader and giving him a nudge. These two aren't doing any harm. And not much good, either, Firestar retorted. He faced the two younger cats. My decisions and the orders I give are for the good of the whole clan, he reminded them. If you can't understand that, maybe you aren't fit to be warriors. What? Squirrelpaw's jaws opened on a howl of outrage, but a furious hiss from her father silenced her. Brambleclaw was too bewildered even to try protesting. Some knowledge that Firestar and Greystripe shared had turned Firestar against him. If Squirrelpaw hadn't told her father about the dream, then it had to be something else. But he had no idea what it could be, or what he'd do about it. You, Firestar went on crisply, flicking his tail at Squirrelpaw. Take that vol of Greystripes to the elders, and then carry on hunting for them. You, the flick at Brambleclaw. Find Mousefur and see if you can possibly bring back some fresh kill before dark. Do it now. Without waiting to see if his orders were obeyed, he whipped around and stalked off through the bushes. Greystripe paused before following him. He's got a lot on his mind. The bot got banned, but of course it always shows on this stupid chat thing. Hang on, let me just turn the chat thing off for a moment. Let me do, yeah, there we go. Hi, Husky. What are you doing? I'm gonna bab you. You're the babbable one here. Anyway, there. It should be gone now. There we go. Losing your mind? Aw, poor Husky. Without waiting to see if his orders were obeyed, he whipped around and stalked off through the bushes. Greystripe paused before following him. He's got a lot on his mind, he murmured apologetically. Don't take it too much to heart. Everything will work out, okay? You'll see. A yell of Greystripe came from the direction where Firestar had disappeared. Greystripe twitched his ears, nodded farewell to the two younger cats, and hurried after his leader. Squirrelpaw stared after them, now that Firestar had gone, and she no longer had to go on defying him. Her tail drooped, and the gaze she turned on Brambleclaw was full of distress. So what are you losing your mind about? I can't do anything right, she meowed. You heard what he said. He thinks I'm not fit to be a warrior. He'll never give me my warrior name. Brambleclaw did not know what to say. His bewilderment was melting into a slow, furious anger. He knew he hadn't done anything wrong. Whatever was making Firestar behave like it, it wasn't his fault. It wasn't Squirrelpaw's either. She could be annoying, but she was a loyal and hardworking apprentice. Any leader worth a couple of mousetails could see what a great warrior she would make. He glared down at the ground, and when Squirrelpaw spoke his name, he scarcely heard her. He felt his mind clearing, like a gray sky when the wind tore the clouds away and the sun shone through. The day before, after the confrontation behind the nursery, he had felt torn between the demands of prophecy and loyalty to Firestar. Now he looked ahead to see day after day of struggling to please his leader with no chance of success, because he did not know why Firestar was angry with him in the first place. There was only one solution. He must leave on the journey with only the word of Starkland to guide him, and not come back until he had discovered answers that would prove to Firestar how loyal he had been all along. or else he would not come back at all. Go on, Bramaclaw meowed roughly, nodding toward the dropped foal. Take that back or you have another go at you. What about you? Squirrelpaw, usually so bright and confident, sounded nervous. He'd been about to lie to her and tell her that he was going to look for Mouse for her. Then he realized how deeply betrayed she'd feel when he didn't come back. After all, they were in this together, at least as far as Firestar's hostility was concerned. I'm leaving, he told her. Leaving? Squirrelpaw echoed in dismay. Leaving ThunderClan? Not leaving for good, Bramaclaw put in quickly. Squirrelpaw, listen. She sat in front of him, and her wide green eyes never left his face, as he told her about the second dream, of drowning in endless salty water and being swept toward the cave with teeth. Ravenpaw says it's a real place, he explained. I think StarClan are telling me to go there, and the other cats agree. We're starting at sunrise tomorrow. The hurt in Squirrelpaw's eyes was clear. You told them and not me, she wailed. Bramaclaw, you promised. I know. Bramaclaw felt guilt gnawing at him. I was going to, and then all this trouble with Firestar started. StarClan knows why, and if they do, they're telling me even less about it than they've told me about the prophecy. And you're really going all that way, but you don't even know how far it is. None of us do, Bramaclaw admitted. But Ravenpaw has spoken to the cats who have seen the place, so it must be possible to get there. I'm not coming back to the camp, he added. I'll spend the night somewhere in the forest, and meet the others at 4 Trees in the morning. Please, Squirrelpaw, don't give us away. Don't tell any cat where we've gone. As he spoke, Squirrelpaw's eyes brightened until they were gleaming with excitement. Bramaclaw knew what she was about to say a heartbeat before she said it. I won't breathe a word to any cat, she promised. I can't, because I'm coming with you. Oh, no, you're not, Bramaclaw retorted. You're not one of the chosen cats. You're not even a warrior yet. Crowpaw isn't a warrior, Squirrelpaw flashed back at him. And I'd bet a moon of Dawn Patrol Stormfort is coming. He'd never let Feathertail go without him, so why do I have to be left out? She hesitated, then added, I didn't tell any cat about the first dream, Bramaclaw. I never said a word, not even to Leafpaw. Bramaclaw knew that was true. Squirrelpaw had dropped even a hint. It would have been all around the camp by now. I didn't promise you could come, he reminded her. I promised to tell you, and I've done that. But you can't leave me behind, Squirrelpaw cried. If I don't know what happens next, my fur will fall out from wondering. It's just too dangerous, Squirrelpaw. Can't you see that? The prophecy is heavy enough weight for me to bear, without having to look after you as well. Look after me? Squirrelpaw's eyes blazed indignantly. I can look after myself, thank you. I'm coming, whether you like it or not. If you won't let me come with you, I'll follow you. Think about what happened today. I don't want to go back to camp and be told off for nothing, over and over again, any more than you do. Bramaclaw stared at her, indecisive. He did not want responsibility of taking a young apprentice into danger, but she would be in more danger if she tried to follow him alone through unknown territory. And if she returned to the camp, once Firestar realized that Bramaclaw had gone missing, he'd badger Squirrelpaw until she told him what she knew, and maybe even send an expedition to bring him back. For a couple of heartbeats, Bramaclaw understood what it meant to be a leader. His fur weighed down with doubts and questions heavier than a whole riverful of floodwater. He heaved a sigh that seemed to go down to the tips of his paws. All right, Squirrelpaw, he meowed. You can come. that is the end of chapter 10 and the last chapter of the stream. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you are new here, I do have a Discord, so you can come join the Discord and say hi to all the crazy people there. Sometimes I have polls, sometimes I just tend to, chat with people. But I hope you guys had a wonderful time listening in. I do stream every Friday, and it's usually book readings, 5 chapters, sometimes more if I miss a day, but I have been making it to where I have something else to do, like building blocks, the micro building block stuff, the little cupcakes that I've done, so that I don't have to do that. But yeah, have a wonderful rest of your night, and I will see you guys later. Bye bye.